Hello, everyone, and welcome to our complimentary webinar today, How to Pass Your Certification Body Audit. We're excited to have you with us today, and thank you again for registering. After the presentation, we will have time for a Q&A session, so be sure to submit any questions you have during the presentation in the chat box provided. I will now introduce our presenter for today, Oscar Combs. Oscar Combs is a senior consultant of the ISO 9001 group. Oscar has over 23 years of experience providing consulting, auditing, and training to organizations such as Transocean, Hewlett-Packard, Kawasaki, Cameron, Halliburton, and numerous other medium and small-sized organizations throughout the United States and abroad. Oscar is an exemplar certified lead auditor and principal management consultant. Everyone, let's welcome Oscar today and begin our presentation.
All right. Thank you, Victoria, for the introduction. Hello, everyone. Hope everybody's having a great day. Today is hump day, right? So it gets better after today. I'm having a great week. Hope you guys are having a great week as well. Hope everybody is, maybe if you're on the East Coast, the Hurricane Florence or any of those rain events, that everybody's okay. Companies doing okay, employees and everything. Today I wanted to talk to you about how to pass your certification body audit. Many times we go through, put a lot of work into getting our management systems in place and ready for certification. Maybe this is ISO 9001 or maybe 14001 or API, any standards that you have to subscribe to. And once you get that audit plan from the certification body, everybody kind of starts panicking just a bit, maybe starting to complete documents, making sure all your forms are in order, all the records are organized, and everybody knows what to say about the quality policy, all these things, right? So, it could be very stressful, and I understand that. I've been through quite a few audits, as you guys may have as well. And so I just thought it would be a good idea to give you some tips and some recommendations on how to make sure you always pass your certification body audit. All right, so I'll be talking about some key strategies, and hopefully you can take that away and that will help you. Before we get started, let me talk a little bit about our company, the ISO 9001 group. We are a consulting, auditing, and training company. We're based in Houston, Texas. Our focus is on helping companies improve their operations and reduce their risk. That's what your management system is all about. Our consultants have an average of 25 years of experience, so we have a lot of knowledge and understand how these management systems work. Our company is also ISO 9001 certified, so we know your pain that you go through in regards to passing certification body audits. And we're also accredited by the Better Business Bureau. We have an A+ rating, so we're very proud of that as well. Also, I would like to encourage you to like and follow us on your favorite social media. And you can search the ISO 9001 group or ISO 9001 group, and follow us, because we post things like the webinar that we're doing today and other management system tips and just some motivational and encouraging things for you as well. Make sure you stay logged in. We will have a Q&A session at the end of the webinar, and so feel free to use your chat feature and submit your questions throughout the webinar, and we'll be logging all your questions, and I will make sure I answer all of your questions at the end. Okay, so make sure you stay tuned in. So before we get started into how to pass a certification audit, it's important that we focus on understanding what a certification body is. Right, so a certification body is a third-party company. They're third-party organizations, and they are accredited to provide you with a certification. All right, so they also have to get certified, if you will, but the term for them is called accreditation. And the accreditation is through an organization called ANSI, ASQ. That may sound familiar, right? American Society for Quality, and ANSI. That's what the A stands for in ANAB, National Accreditation Board. Now you can go to anab.org and you can verify if your certification body is indeed accredited by ANAB. Or if you are in Europe or across the Atlantic, a lot of organizations are certified through the United Kingdom National Accredited Service, which is referred to as UCAS. ANAB primarily for, I would say, west of the Atlantic, and then UCAS is across the Atlantic. All right, so that's kind of how you could think of it. We also need to understand that certification bodies, they follow a standard called ISO 17021. And this is just like maybe ISO 9001 for your company. They have to follow ISO 17021. So if you want to know how a certification body should operate, I would encourage you to go check out that standard, and you can kind of read up on what they should be doing and what they should not be doing. All right, so certification bodies, they certify your management system. They don't certify your product or your service of your company. Some people confuse that. The certification means that a certification body has come into your organization and conducted an audit, and they have verified that your management system meets the requirements of said standard. That could be ISO 9001 or any other standard. So that's what they are really focusing on, is the certification of your management system, not your products or your services. So what's the purpose of certification audits? So a certification audit is to verify that your company is operating, your management system conforms to international standards, right? ISO 9001, 14, 45001 now is a new one for occupational health and safety. So that's their goal, is when an auditor comes into your organization, their mindset is to conform, to ensure that your system is conforming to these standards. They are really there to provide assistance and recommendations. So in addition to the verification, they want to assist you and they want to provide recommendations so that you can continually improve your system. So they want you to meet the requirements of these standards, and so that's their focus. Now, when they are doing their audit, they are trying to find objective evidence of the implementation of your system. An auditor, with them being a third party, they have to ensure that they are objective. And so when they certify your system, they need to be able to objectively say that, yeah, we verified that XYZ company's system met the requirements of ISO 9001. So that's why the certification process is so important. And guess what? They actually they want to certify and register your system under their certification brand. So for them, that's another customer, right? That's another customer that they can say is holding their certification brand. And so they register your management system, your company, as meeting the requirements of these standards. All right, so getting certified is very important because it provides assurance to your customers and to your potential customers that your management system was found to meet the requirements of international standards. So this is important if, let's say, you're trying to sell overseas, for example, or if you're trying to purchase from overseas. You can, and the company, your company is ISO certified, ISO 9001 certified. A company in another country could find you, and they would say, oh, okay, yeah, this company is certified to ISO 9001. That means that their management system has been found to be compliant and that they are meeting the requirements of the standard. So it's a good thing, the certification audit, right? You should view the certification audit as a learning opportunity for your company, right? You should embrace when a certification body comes in to audit your company. Everyone should really get excited as opposed to getting nervous and anxious. This is a good opportunity to have a good benchmark on how you're actually doing from an outside party. All right, so it's a good thing. It's very important to understand how auditors think, right? An auditor, as I've indicated, is coming into your company and they're looking for objective evidence that you're meeting the requirements of the standard. Again, the standard could be many different standards, but some common ones: ISO 9001, 14,001, 45,001, many others. But that's what I'm talking about. So they're coming into your company when they do the audit, thinking about your processes in your company. Now you can see we have a process interaction map on the screen here. And so that's what the auditor is looking at, trying to understand the process of your company, all the inputs and outputs of each process. They're trying to understand how you monitor these processes and are they effective. They're trying to verify that people are actually following these processes. And the way that they do that is by looking or asking you for records. That's why you sometimes find people going and around and what I like to call pencil whipping, right? They're trying to make sure that all of the information on a form is filled out before the audit. But really, these things should be done through day-to-day activities, and then we wouldn't have to worry about filling out things before the audit, right? But that's what the auditor is looking for evidence. And then the auditor is also trying to figure out, what kind of actions do you take to prevent problems or what we call nonconformities, or when nonconformities do occur, what kind of corrective actions do you take? So when you see an auditor in your company that's coming in to do an audit and you see them kind of like with their hand, on their chin and like they're thinking, these are the things that they're thinking about. What is the sequence and how does this process link to another process that you told them about? And then when you introduce a purchase order, for example, they're trying to think about, well, did you evaluate that supplier? So looking at the sequence, because the evaluation should come first before you purchase from a supplier, right? So they're kind of going back and forth, looking at inputs and outputs and looking at, do you have a purchasing procedure? And looking at the evidence, the record may be the actual purchase order, or it could be the receiving inspection that was done. Could be many different things, but these are some of the things or thoughts that are going through their head while you're talking. So you're talking and showing them things, and these are the things that they're thinking about. And an auditor, when they come into your organization to do the certification audit, they bring their experience primarily, right? So if an auditor has a strong manufacturing background, they're probably going to really hone in on your manufacturing process. Or maybe they had a strong business background, so maybe that auditor is going to really get into some of the administrative things. But you may get a very balanced auditor as well that has a good mix of administrative controls, have a good mix of manufacturing, things of that nature. But really, what they know, they only know what you tell them. That's why you have to be careful on what you say to an auditor. They really only know what you tell them. So if you tell them that, we sign off on all of our inspection reports 100% of the time, well, they're making a note. Sign off on inspection reports 100% of the time. So guess what? When they get to the part of the audit where they need to look at inspection reports, their expectation is that they're going to see inspection reports signed off 100% of the time, right? That's what you told them. So keep that in mind when you go through an audit. Be mindful on what you're telling an auditor. What they really want to do is just trying to help you, right? So if you say that you do it 100% of the time and they find that you don't, that finding, is really their way of helping you follow your own procedure. That's just trying to give you some insight on how an auditor thinks when they come into your organization to do the audit. So keeping that in mind, now that we know what a certification body, of course, is all about, and then just kind of giving you a little peek into an auditor's mindset when they come into your organization to do an audit, I want to provide you with some strategies to make sure you're staying audit ready. Staying audit ready, that means that if an auditor wanted to walk into your company today, they should be able to do that and find that you're following your system, because it's your management system. You put it in place to help your organization. You put it in place to provide structure for employees as they work, make decisions, conduct transactions on a day-to-day basis. You did not put this system in place for the certification body. You didn't put this system in place only to get certified. Maybe you did initially, but hopefully you are beyond that point and you understand that this is a management system. It's called a quality management system, a safety management system, an environmental management system. So it's a system for your company and we should be following it. So here are some strategies for you, right? So the first thing is to make sure you read the standard. Many times we go into companies and we realize that our clients haven't even read the ISO 9001 standard. And so when an auditor comes in to tell them something, or an auditor may make a recommendation, that recommendation may be based upon their experience and not what the standard requires. And so if you don't understand the standard, you're not giving yourself any ammunition, if you will, to kind of rebut anything that you may not agree with. And then you'll find yourself, going up and down based upon this auditor says this auditor says something different. You have to go to the source, read the standard, and then ensure that your procedures reflect what you do. As I've indicated, auditors only primarily know what you tell them or what they see. So they're looking at your procedures. They went off of what you said your procedure was. So if you don't do it a certain way, don't tell the auditor that. Or if your procedures do not reflect how you do things, guess what we need to do? We need to update the procedure. A procedure is meant to be evergreen, meaning that it's a living document. You can always change it. So as soon as a step changes, we should go and update the procedure so that when someone else is trying to follow the procedure, that they're doing it the new way. Or if an auditor comes into your organization, they're not looking at an old procedure and looking at someone doing it the new way, a different way. That's going to be a finding. See, it just causes conflict in the audit. The auditor has to reconcile everything that you say to him or her, They have to reconcile everything that they hear, and they have to reconcile everything that they see. So when you give them these conflicting information or data, they have to reconcile that. And these become audit findings for your company. So the next thing, we need to make sure that employees are actually following the procedures. Does no good to have a procedure and then people are doing things totally different. These are findings in certification audits. Ensure that your records are completed. Make sure that they are filed properly. Make sure that you have objective evidence available. So if your procedure says that we evaluate suppliers, guess what? We need to have supplier evaluation records ready. Have it organized, have it on file. We can't have a procedure that says we evaluate suppliers, and then when the auditor asks, well, let me see a couple of supplier evaluations, and then we're fumbling around trying to find some, or we don't have any supplier evaluations. We just created a finding in our audit at that point. The best way for you to stay ready is to do your own internal audits. If you do your own internal audit, that's the best way to make sure that your system, people are following the system. So we recommend that you do at least 1 to 2 audits per year. So maybe every 6 months or once a year. But those internal audits should catch most things before a certification body comes into your company. That's why you have to understand the standard. So the audit would be done based upon the standard. So if you're following ISO 9001, you're certified to ISO 9001, your internal audits should be based upon the requirements of ISO 9001. That's how you would catch everything before a certification body auditor would. And then make sure that you talk to the employees, and when they talk to the auditor, they should just simply explain how they do things, and make sure that when they explain it, that they're explaining it how the procedure says that it's done. So that way we don't have any conflicts. A couple more things, do's and don'ts of certification audits. Let's talk about some do's real quick. Be honest. Auditor's not looking for you to be perfect. If you look in the standard, you won't find perfection in there at all. It's called continual improvement. So if the auditor sees that you have a bit of an issue, you just need to be honest. Don't try to cover it up. The more you try to cover things up, it forces the auditor to just dig. So just be honest, be transparent. Listen. Please listen to the questions and answer the questions directly and clearly. Sometimes you hear something different than what the auditor actually said, because maybe you're trying to think ahead and trying to figure out, okay, where's the auditor trying to go with this question? But really, I just want to encourage you to really listen to the question and answer that question. Don't answer more than that question. Listen to the question, answer that question. All right. Again, explain what the approved procedure states. Don't explain how you think things should be done or how you guys plan on doing it a year from now. That's going to cause confusion. As I mentioned, the auditor has to reconcile everything that he says, everything that you say, everything that you show him. They have to reconcile that. Make sure you have your objective evidence ready. All right, have those records ready. Couple of don'ts. Don't offer too much information. If the auditor didn't ask you for that, don't offer it. I often see people, sometimes you do a lot of work to put your management system together, and you just want to show that work off. You want to show the auditor, I did all of this work, I did this, I have this. Don't offer anything. If the auditor only asks you for a supplier evaluation, let's just focus on providing a supplier evaluation. Don't provide a purchase order. Don't provide a supplier audit unless that's your evaluation. Stay focused in the audit. It's very important. Know when to stop talking. Sometimes we end up talking ourselves into findings. We just talk. Let the auditor ask that question. You answer that question, and kind of be quiet at that point. Sometimes the auditor uses a technique of silence. They'll ask a question and be silent because we have an urge to fill up that silence space. So you, as the auditee, you'll get to talking. I want you to fight that urge. Listen for the auditor cues. He or she will let you know that they'll say, oh, okay, yeah, that's pretty good. Oh, I see. That's great. That means they are good with what you provided them. They are happy with the answer. At that point, you should not provide any additional information unless they ask for it. Sometimes if you add more information, they have to reconcile it. They have to go down that trail, and you could talk yourself into another finding. Never become combative. If you don't like what the auditor is saying, if you don't like their finding, it's okay. It's their conclusion. So, don't really debate too much unless you feel like you have a strong case. So those are some do's and don'ts. We actually have an internal auditor course coming up. If you're interested in doing your own internal audits, we have a course on the 15th and the 16th, and you can contact us and to register for that course, or you can go right to our website and register for that course. That, as I indicated, the internal audit is a very good way, and it's very important to make sure that you're always audit ready. All right, so at this time, I want to pass it back over to Victoria. Hopefully, you guys found this beneficial, but we got a couple of questions, and I'll make myself available to answer those questions. Victoria, do we have any questions?
Yes, Oscar, we have a few questions today. So the first question we have is, what are some of the main reasons people fail their audits?
Well, that's a pretty loaded question. But I would say if I had to say three things that I've seen in my experience is that people procrastinate, meaning that the auditor sent you an audit plan 2 weeks ago, but you waited like the day before the audit to prepare. Not following your own management system. So again, that's going to be a finding every time. And as I've indicated, just talking too much. Sometimes auditees just talk themselves into a finding. We have to know when to be quiet. Any other questions?
Yes, the next question we have is, if we fail a certification audit, is all of our work wasted?
No. This is a learning process, right? So it's not a pass or a fail situation in an audit. It is about the continual improvement process. So if you have findings, that's an opportunity for you to get better, right? So you just have to respond to those findings and implement corrective actions. Even with the corrective actions, those are the things that are driving the continual improvement of your system. So there's no such thing as failing an audit. It's just about the opportunity for improvement that you have. All right, any other questions? I think we maybe have time for one or two more.
Yes, the last question we have is, what can we do if we don't agree with the certification body findings?
Oh yeah, that's a really good question. Now, as I've indicated, that's why I want you to read the standard, and I also mentioned the standard that certification bodies follow as well. Now, most certification bodies do have an appeal process, meaning that you can appeal the finding if you strongly disagree with it, with their conclusion. Now, what I typically like to say is that it's better to just simply respond to the finding as opposed to appealing. But the appeal process is there for you. and you can use it at your discretion. All right, I think that's all we have. Hey guys, I really appreciate you logging in to our webinar today, and hopefully you found some of this information valuable and of assistance as you work to pass your certification body audits. Passing it back over to Victoria. Thank you now. Bye-bye.
Thank you again, everyone, for joining us today. We encourage you to reach out to us at our office line here, 832-326-9796, or via email at info@iso9001group.com to continue the discussion, or if you have any questions. As Oscar mentioned before, we would like to invite you to follow us and like us on your favorite social medias to stay up to date on when our next complimentary webinar will be, as well as additional management system tips and training opportunities. This webinar will be available on our website for your use. Thank you and have a quality day.